Hello, everyone. I'm Judge Janine Pirro, along with Jessica Tarlov, Jesse Waters, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Fox News alert, officials say time is running out for millions as the once-in-a-lifetime Hurricane Milton ferociously charges towards Florida and is expected to make landfall as soon as tonight. Let's go right to Steve Harrigan. He's out in Tampa, Florida. Steve?
Judge, it's really pounding now. This is the heaviest rain we've seen so far. They expect to get anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of rain. Couple that with a storm surge that could be anywhere from 10 to 15 feet and winds that are gusting now. We're not seeing any trees snap, but they certainly are starting to bend. A worst case scenario for this storm would be if it were to hit just north of Tampa. Keep in mind that storm that did so much damage 2 weeks ago hit next to a town in Florida that had a population of just 6,000. Now we're talking about a storm that might have a bullseye on an area of 3.3 million. And when you talk to people, their anxiety and their stress is so clear, they'll just start talking to a stranger. One woman told me yesterday, my mom has Alzheimer's. As soon as my shift's over, I gotta try and get her out. I mean, people are really like bleeding out their anxiety. The other emotion I find here a lot is that after one storm 2 weeks ago, another big storm now, there's a sense of defeatism among some people whose homes may have been damaged. Many people really ready to throw in the towel on Florida. Here's one of them.
The storms are just knocking us out. And everybody wants to sell now because, nobody wants to do this no more. I'm getting too old for this. But, yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a total nightmare.
Now, little by little, conditions are expected to get worse overnight. Already more than 100,000 without power. During the last storm, more than 2 million eventually lost power, so the worst of it could be in the dark here soon. Back to you guys in New York.
All right, Steve, take care of yourself. And we are getting a huge update on Hurricane Milton. Let's go right to Adam Klotz in the Fox Weather Center for more. Adam?
Hey, Judge. Yeah, we got the latest information coming here right at 5 p.m. Really a very similar sized storm. Winds still at 120 miles an hour. We've only lost 5 miles an hour here since our last update. We're getting now close enough to this landfall that we can continue to get updates on the track. And this is currently what we're looking at, somewhere in a landfall here between just south of Sarasota and basically over Tampa before this storm continues to drag across the state, likely staying kind of right along Interstate 4 and then out to sea. But that will take really all through the overnight hours into early portions of tomorrow. The wind field is already big enough. Obviously, people are feeling this across the entire state. That hurricane force winds are going to be dragging across the state. So just because you're on the east side of the state doesn't mean you won't be dealing with a hurricane. It's going to be passing right by Orlando. They are going to be seeing winds like that. And I will leave you with this, Judge. These are our most recent numbers as far as the possibility of storm surge. Tampa now looking at an upper end storm surge of 9 feet. That's a little bit lower than was previously forecast. There are still areas where we're expecting 13 feet of storm surge. That would be absolutely devastating. And then a little farther south, you get places like Fort Myers, still 12 feet of storm surge. That's something that will be coming true as we head into the overnight hours.
All right, Adam. Thanks so much. And President Biden and Kamala Harris getting briefed on the Hurricane Milton, but the president wasted precious time by making it political and personal, attacking Donald Trump and other Republicans for questioning FEMA's response and accusing them of pushing misinformation.
Former President Trump has led the onslaught of lies. Assertions have been made that property is being confiscated. That's simply not true. They're saying people impacted by these storms will receive $750 in cash and no more. That's simply not true. They're saying the money is needed for this crisis is being diverted to migrants. What a ridiculous thing to say. It's not true. Now the claims are getting even more bizarre. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman from Georgia, is now saying the federal government is literally controlling the weather. We're controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous. It's got to stop.
All right, I'll go to you first, Jesse. So the President Biden, has a press conference ostensibly to put people at ease and to create a sense of calm. And instead he brings up politics and he says specifically, former President Trump has led an onslaught of lies. I mean, is he so thin-skinned that he can't focus on what he should be doing, which is the American
He's fighting Trump harder
people?
than he's fighting the hurricane. If he's going to be angry at someone, it shouldn't be Trump. It should be his own team that left North Carolina holding the bag. Here are the allegations. He says Trump said that people were seizing property. We looked. Trump never said that. They said that Trump said that people weren't going to get any more than $750. We looked. Trump never said that. And then the migrant money thing. Now, why did Trump say that? Well, I think it's because the Biden administration said they didn't have enough money for hurricane season. And then the Biden administration said they spent $1 billion on migrants. So people put two and two together, and we figured maybe the money wasn't spent wisely. The real disinformation is that they're blaming us for driving Suburbans instead of Priuses for Cat 5s. But they say if you vote for Kamala Harris, they won't be Cat 5s, they'll be just Cat 2s and 3s. That's really controlling the weather. They're saying they can control the weather if you elect Kamala Harris. The truth is that Biden did a nice job with Florida. He handled Governor DeSantis perfectly. But he didn't do a great job in North Carolina. They didn't pre-position enough military assets. They should have had choppers. They should have had U.S. military jeeps, guys in those low foothills. And they didn't. And they should own that, because we've interviewed hundreds of people on the ground that said they haven't seen FEMA in weeks. And it's not disinformation to say that FEMA is focused on equity. They admitted it. And the last time FEMA was in Maui, they were booking $1,000 a night luxury hotel rooms while people didn't have homes. This is classic diversion. They do this every time. A Democrat fails, and then Trump criticizes, and then they make the story about Trump's criticism instead of their failure. It's like a cheap fake. No one's seen FEMA, and they're telling you, oh, no, FEMA's there, everything's great. Meanwhile, no one's seen them.
Well, Dana, Corey Mills, who is part of the whether it's Save Our Allies or the Redneck Group that's going into North Carolina, where the government is not going, has talked about the fact that there is poor leadership, and this was today. And he said, there wasn't anyone on the ground in northern North Carolina until Ted Budd and Senator Tom Tillis on October the 6th really pushed the envelope. So there you have, I think it's 8 or 9 days later, and then they respond. So there is some truth to the criticism.
Yeah, the North Carolina members of Congress were like, basically, I'm going to pour gasoline on myself and light this match if you don't send the military. And then they were like, oh, wait, I guess we should send the military, and that helps. Now, that storm was gigantic. And you have a situation where people are living in very remote, rural areas. The roads are washed out. And Mother Nature did a real number on that. Yeah. And the media does this interesting thing. Well, they'll take one little thing and pretend that's the entire story, as if Republicans spreading misinformation is the entire story of this hurricane response. Meanwhile, you have people who are like, is my government coming to help me? Is anyone coming to help me? Thankfully, there are people on the ground there, and they're getting more resources in. But it was slow. And I think that the more that they try to rub the spot on the wall, the worse it gets for them from the Biden administration. On the $750 issue, it wasn't Trump that said it. I don't know who started it. But one of the problems with that Mayorkas said this morning to ABC News is that if people think they're only going to get $750 total and that's it, then they might not even come to FEMA at all for help. And that's not what they want. The $750 is an initial thing for immediate needs, and then you can apply for more. But there's a lot of red tape. And I think there has to be a real rethink about disaster response, the role of FEMA, how big FEMA is. Do we need it to be bigger? Should we revisit the laws on what the military is allowed to do and not do? I mean, this is like a bigger issue because these storms are not going to stop coming. And as Greg has pointed out, there are more people living in these places than they ever have before. Building codes allow people to build in the wildland urban interface. That's where the fires are happening, on the flood zones. And then you have so many more people living on this coastline that's about to get pummeled that you want to know that your government is going to come and help you, but that's not going to be enough. Thankfully, Americans are so generous, and people like Corey Mills are so good at what they do. The last thing I'm going to point out is this. One of the reasons you have disinformation or accusations of misinformation is all the things that happened during COVID. It just keeps coming back to bite them in the rear end. And a real problem has been something we really can't do anything about right now is that we don't have many local media outlets anymore. The more local media outlets that were there on the ground would have been able to inform all of us. Instead, now we have national news stories about things that we can't see.
And you know, Greg, the truth is that Obama, as soon as that earthquake struck Haiti, within 48 hours, he literally deployed troops, the 82nd Airborne. And even Bush during Katrina had 18,000 troops there. I mean, this is pathetic compared to the numbers that we see that have been accomplished or directed by other presidents. What about this idea that FEMA has had to give some money to the migrants and that FEMA is running out of money?
Well, okay, so the Department of Homeland Security has the authority to reprogram money from one FEMA account to another, like from migrant services to disaster relief, which tells you when a bureaucrat says, no, the money's separate, it's from, that's a smoke screen. It all comes from one big pot. And by the way, it's our pot. But there's an opportunity cost when you set aside hundreds of millions, which then later become billions because of the migrant surge, to a man-made disaster like the border instead of a natural disaster. It's anybody who has bank accounts know it's all the same thing. So if you got to spend money here, it's going to be taken away from here. I don't want to be lectured about misinformation from Joe Biden, right? I mean, this is a guy who continues to push the Fine People hoax, which created so much turmoil for Trump supporters who, by connection to Trump, were branded as racist for, I don't know, 3 years. Never mind, there's like 20 to 30 hoaxes you could go through, but just another one Biden still hasn't answered for, accusing the border agents of whipping Haitian migrants. I mean, they are the last people in the world that you should be listening to when it comes to that. It doesn't help that during a hurricane, the vice president, Antony Blinken, tweets about the U.S. providing $157 million in assistance to the people in Lebanon, to the point you're making that you're watching this money go elsewhere. That was like $400 million for the year. People shouldn't be blamed when they hear that they get pissed off. It pisses me off. But you're absolutely right. When they say $750 is a minimum and you can apply for more, that assumes residents will have the ability to file the paperwork, to get more. Most won't have that ability. Now, compare that to the migrant funds. There's almost no bureaucratic red tape. Yep. We know it. We saw it in New York City. The time between the border and a hotel room with a debit card is zero. Yep. They get on a bus, they're here, they got food, they complain about the food, they get hotel rooms, they party. It's like, it just happens. And you have to wonder, it's like, why do Americans have to wait in line for the stuff they pay for? And people can come here and just get it, cut in line, claim asylum, and they get it. It's a natural kind of, it makes you pissed.
They go through airport security faster than we do.
They don't have to have ID.
They don't need ID. Yeah, but Jessica, this whole idea that even to get that $750, Trump had to get Elon Musk to set up Starlink so that they could get some cell coverage on their phone to be able to apply for the $750. I mean, if it weren't for all of these private entities, the government just wasn't there in the beginning, and they're playing catch up now.
Well, let's be clear. The government was the one that got the first 40 Starlink satellites to get to North Carolina when Helene struck. That was the U.S. government. Donald Trump is very close with Elon Musk. He is arguably his most important backer with the $45 million a month that he does and using Twitter as a campaign bugle horn at this point. But the government was on top of that. Now, to say that what Joe Biden was doing was nakedly political removes the context of this, which is that the President of the United States of America is worried that people are listening to folks like Donald Trump, like Lara Trump. She was the one who said the $750. She was on with Dana Bash, trying to have, I guess, a nice conversation or get some hits in. Put up that lie. They're only getting $750. And Dana Bash had to say that's absolutely untrue. That is a lie, because that makes people think.
That's what they're getting.
No, that
right now, that's what they're getting. I was in a flood. I know how it works.
I'm very sorry that happened to you. But Trump, and co. should not be saying that's all that you're going to get, because it makes people feel like they have no options. And if it's just going to be $750, then what's the point? The point is that will get you what you need for your immediate necessities, things like baby formula. They were making fun of, I think it was Senator Kennedy, saying they're concerned about tampons. It's all about tampons with them. Well, sometimes you need feminine care items. That's what that was about. The Marjorie Taylor Greene thing with they controlled the weather. First, I thought she was talking about Jews again. I know we're powerful, not that powerful. Then it turns out it's the federal government. And Congressman Chuck Edwards from North Carolina had to release a huge statement about the disinformation of this because, again, his constituents are believing these crackpot Republicans who are being nakedly partisan about this. Secretary Buttigieg had to call up Elon Musk and say, hey, buddy, maybe you could stop tweeting about these things because you're spreading lies. And guess what? The mark of a true narcissist, someone so easily swayed, Elon Musk immediately backtracked because he was so happy because Secretary Pete gave him a call.
The only person who took Marjorie Taylor Greene seriously
not-
was Joe Biden.
No, then why did
Nobody
Chuck
else
Edwards,
did.
Why did Chuck Edwards issue that statement?
I don't know.
Who's Chuck Edwards?
He's the congressman. He's a Republican congressman who has thousands of constituents that are going to be out of their homes.
The only
Chuck
people
Edwards, hardest hit.
amplifying that crackpot notion
Are the Democrats.
Are the Democrats.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.